raining bullets, and roaring cannons. The casualty numbers grows without stop in the terrible civil war of Groznovia. The majority ethnic Grozny and the minority Vysena consisted the main population in the nation of Groznovia. But as Vysena claimed independence, the Grozny took down the protests violently, and Vysena formed a rebel force. This was the start of a civil war in the country. So the once peaceful Groznovia had turned into a land of conflict and casualties. Soon, the Grozny army besieged the city of Pogorin, a culturally significant city of the Vysena and the home base of the rebels, only escalating the intensity of the war. However, in this perilous war of ours, not everyone was an elite soldier. Because the sudden besiege of the city never considered the people, the innocent civilians of Pogorin.
Odbijemali. Jeszcze jedną jawłem z ratem rozruszonych Pogorena. Noć była mirna, do Samo nekoliko opucnjeva u susjedstvu. Ne budite uvjereni. Idemo Avdijeva. Kako bismo prenosili informaciju. Kako bismo rekli ono što treba biti rečeno. Glas koji ostaje nečim. Vaš glas Pogorom.
In this age of burning buildings, Malik hosted the Voice of Pogorin. While Malik ran the broadcast on crutches, his wife Esme ran outside the safe house to scavenge supplies, supporting Malik. Their son Adem had disagreements with Malik and had run away to join the military. But despite this, the couple dearly cared for each other and their purpose to shine truth in the city. By warning people of snipers hiding in the park, they prevented more casualties. The broadcast about a stranded military truck near the gas station helped the poor scavenge supplies. And in the midst of this, they could scavenge through the beat-up broadcast station to feed themselves without starving. And as people thanked Malik for his courage, this gave the couple great strength to go on and do what is right for the people. Although the invisible hand had no compassion. However, no matter of the good cause, the war was still a cold, cruel reality. To Esma, who had to deliver information to Malik, a moment came that made her hesitate. Because her friend, Novak, told them that the military had eyes on them and expressed concern for the two. Despite this, Malik believed that telling the truth is what he must do as a journalist. Esma well understood and supported Malik. But she thought, what if the things she saw from the merciless military happens to them also? By an informant called Bagel, these civilians had been abducted. It was sure that the military would torture and kill them. And Esma couldn't just ignore this. So the right thing was done. The rebels became aware of this and freed the civilians. So Malik's broadcast once again resulted in lives saved. But the informant the army mentioned, Bagel's identity still remained unknown. To ease her unsure mind for a change, Esma decided to visit her dear friend, Novak, and his son. Enjoying the change of air, Esma spent some time with Novak's child, but she was shocked upon finding something. The document she saw in Novak's house said that Novak, was in fact the Bagel feeding information to the army. Novak told her that he had no choice in order to provide food for the child. He also claimed that only criminals and people facing imminent death were reported, but this only sounded like an excuse. As Malik heard this from Esma, he broadcasted the news right away. And very soon, Novak's family was gone, never to be found again. At that moment, Esma thought of the moment Novak warned her. If Novak was with the Grozny army, wouldn't they know where they are as well? As uneasiness grew more and more, an acquaintance of Esma informed her that the army will strike the rebel hideout and asked her to broadcast this. Esma was forced to make a risky decision. And this anxiety escalated in the music club when Esma heard that the military was tracking the broadcast and found her fear come true. There were people who supported Malik, but there were some that disliked Malik for putting people at risk. Despite the army's threat, Malik only sought to act on his belief, and if that resulted in Malik's death, Esma would break down, unable to go on. After an inner turmoil, Esma decided to not tell Malik the information. But that choice left the rebels unprepared for the attack, and many innocent people had died along with the rebels. The next day, Esma woke up with a great remorse and headed out to find some water in the brewery. Many civilians had gathered here just to get a sip of water. The brewery was full of blood, and cries over the ones lost echoed emptily in the rubbles of the building. This was what Esma witnessed with her eyes, and that was what would have happened in the hideout. This moment, Esma decided, no matter the cost, the pain, the truth must be told. As truth eliminated the night, with a less burdened heart, Esma set out to scavenge supplies like any other day. But this day felt a bit wrong. In this empty, decrepit squat, she could only find a bunch of papers. But what Esma discovered there in the deserted pile of papers was a document noting that the finding of the source of the broadcast was close.
To by było całego wieczora. Skoro czuwam się zjawić znowu wieczno, a zasad was ostawiam. Snadom zawolię sutra. Laku noc pogorąc.
Malik lay silently, never to wake again. As Esma was grieving over Malik's death, a man knocked on the door. Their son, who joined the army, Adem. The moment he found out the army targeted Malik, Adem deserted without hesitation to warn his parents, but it was already too late. And so, Malik's funeral commenced. The people he saved came to pay condolences, and everyone praised Malik's action for justice. But nothing in this world could ease the widow and the son without father of their pain. They still had to survive on their own. Vernon sang for Malik with the guitar, mentally support the only family they had, just to survive the unchanging days. However, as the battles cooled down a bit, and words indicated that the port will be opened, Adem had his hopes high upon the chance of escape, and scavenged the music club, destroyed by the Grozny army. But what Adem could find there was something that could carry on his father's noble cause for truth, a spare, intact radio part.
Ovdje Adam, Markov sin, ustojelio djavolom nakon što je vojska ubila mog oca. Brutalno je ubio jer je zvala vjerio istinu. No njegov glas neće biti nečišćen. Nastavit ćemo njegov posao. Reći ćemo što treba biti izrečeno, jer mi smo baš glas. Glas požarani.
In a shelled apartment, barely standing, a man is taking care of his only daughter. His name is Adam. His wife already died of disease, so Adam was determined to save his daughter, Amelia. Doing his best to ignore sounds of gunshots, he did his best to care for Amelia, but Amelia did not speak or even budge. The illness never seemed to get any better. Then one day, Adam's brother came to share something. The military was pressured by the outside forces, and thus a humanitarian corridor was made for civilians, and the injured and ones with children could easily pass. But Amelia was in no state to leave right away. Thus, Adam accused his brother of trying to use Amelia and shoot his brother away. But the next day, what awaited the burned-out father was a bed without his daughter. Panicked, Adam set out to his brother's house to find Amelia, but the house was deserted. To find any kind of clues, Adam ran to check the pharmacy, but what he could discover there was a cold body lying around, Adam's brother. In this desperate moment, with Amelia nowhere to be seen, he could barely sleep, and he could barely eat. Adam ran across the entire city solely to find Amelia. He taught the thugs how strong a father can be, and found a homeless who saw something. But an exchange was needed for information. Putting a child's life in bargain, Adam really wanted to punch the scum in the face, but he did his best to hold his rage in and pass some of his food. To hear that an unknown man took a young girl to the hospital, But as Adam barely made it to the hospital, he could only find her clothes. Still, it was a solid fact that Amelia was definitely here. So his last thread of hope was connected to the doctor who got abducted last night. Like so, Adam found soldiers interrogating. Adam old-boyed through the corridor to finally find Amelia's last known location. The old church that was supposed to be the corridor. So, without a break, Adam ran to the church. But the place, supposed to be filled with the hope of escape, was instead filled with dead bodies, with despair in the air. In the first place, the government never intended to go humanitarian. Adam continued to go on, and the priest told Adam that Amelia is among the others. So Adam went to see his daughter. Through an intense blizzard chilling to the bone, an unknown man walked. Forcing his aching body, the man struggled with each step to finally arrive at a house. Like so, while taking care of this man, Anya took care of this collection that her grandfather took dearly. In this winter of especially cruel winds, she did her best to scavenge and provide food. And was it because Anya was a good Samaritan? The man recovered rather fast and introduced himself as Reuben, telling Anya he came to find refuge from the military, to keep the ceremonial items of his culture safe, no matter the cost. As the temperature dropped more, Anya and Reuben struggled to survive. But someone knocked on their door. The Poker Museum curator, Milena. Milena was acquainted with Anya's grandfather, and to save the Vicena heritage, Milena asked Anya to bring the collection to the museum where it will be safe. Anya and Reuben agreed and packed up to get to the museum. The Pogoran Museum was huge with not enough hands. Only Milena and Zoran, the janitor, were there to care for the Vicena cultural heritage. So Anya and Reuben helped the two to take care of the museum. A new heater to keep inside warm, and more beds to lay on. Despite the brutally cold weather and not enough food, the four of them desperately secured the exhibits. However, things went worse every single day. They were running low on food, and they never had enough fuel. On top of that, routine bandit raids. Every day was a cruel test in this war, and each bombing nearby could cause the poor museum to fall along with its collection. But despite the situation, the four remained human. In the orphanage near the museum, ran by a man named Adam, they shared some fuel for the kids. And when the orphanage was bombed, they helped clearing out the rubbles. Although it wasn't possible to save everyone. But still, they struggled to try. Wooden auroch from the Vicenna myths. A painting of the Vicenna army fighting off Grasny invasion. The world-famous artwork, Battle of Leech Swamp. From a collection of postcards to medieval armor, the artwork collection was an essence of the Vicenna culture and heritage, and the four vowed to protect it. But the durability of the Pogrom Museum was reaching its limit. One option remained: escape. Milena searched far and wide and managed to find a beat-up truck. The truck could be fixed and fuel could be found. But the city of Pogrom was tightly surrounded. So where was the biggest issue? With contemplation, time passed accordingly. And on a day when the cold met its peak, a man visited the museum. Colonel Markov of the Grasny military. The military sought to destroy the Vicenna culture. But Markov proposed that if the priceless painting, The Battle of Leech Swamp, was offered to him, he'd keep the other collections safe. In this unending, risky war, it could cost them one painting to have guaranteed survival, as well as the preservation of other items. But the painting was the history of Vicenna itself, and priceless literally meant priceless. If the painting was given, it would be auctioned to only make the colonel's family rich and never ever return to his home country. But it wasn't like they had enough time to think it over. If the military bombed the city again soon, this crumbling museum was sure to be made into crumbles. So Milena set out to the streets of Pogrom to find another option. Thus, each day was a mixture of worries and despair. The remaining three struggled each day, until one morning, another option revealed itself. This stranger called himself Terrace, and suggested if he can get his trial records, he would provide them the way to the bank vault where the collection could be stored. But Terrace's claim that they were out to get him first only sounded like a start of a revenge crime. A clear-cut indication that the innocent would be harmed. But a day passed, and another. But Milena was nowhere to be seen, and Markov told him the bombing is imminent, demanding the painting. The group remained patiently, trusting Milena. But soon they were informed of bad news. That in an attempt to steal a pass for the cargo, Milena was busted and barely escaped with a gunshot wound. Chance of surviving in this weather with a wound would be slim. It truly felt like the end of the line. Here, Anya reached the moment of clarity. Ruben and Zoran helped them get so far. But now, was the inevitable time to choose. And Anya's choice was handing over the document Terrace wanted. Anya hoped that she was delusional for suspecting that Terrace would harm people. But soon, she found herself right. Nonetheless, Anya had come this far, and there was no other option. As the sun rose once again, the group waited for Milena one last time. But the arrow of time flew indifferently. The three couldn't afford to wait anymore and started packing up. The flames took over the museum. In the fiery, collapsing building, to the truck loaded with the collections, Anya made desperate steps. So, in front of the burning museum, Anya was rejoiced to reunite with Milena. But Milena's wounds were far beyond the point of recovery.